Hi everyone, I made this screencast to introduce myself so you could know a little bit more about me. So first, I live in Pleasant Grove, Utah with my husband Garrett and our 3 children. My husband is a mechanical engineer. He works for a company that makes military drones, so we never get to see what he does. It's pretty much all confidential. We have 3 kids. My oldest, Miles, just turned 10. He is a really fun kid. He loves all kinds of brain teasers and puzzles. He loves the Harry Potter books. He loves telling jokes, makes us laugh all the time. My daughter, Molly, is 7. She is super social. She's always at her happiest when she's with her friends. She also loves to draw. She loves to sing and dance. And then our youngest, Elliot, is 4 years old. He is in preschool right now and loves it so much. He's a very cuddly kid, but he is also a very destructive kid. So it's a lot of fun keeping up with him. He loves his stuffed animals, he loves playing outside, and he loves anything with wheels, cars, construction equipment, trains, you name it. These are a few of my hobbies, things that I enjoy doing. I do the New York Times crossword puzzle every day. I started in college and I've been doing it ever since. I love sewing. I do a lot of sewing. This is a shirt and a dress that I made for my daughter. I mostly make clothes, some for myself, some for my kids. It's a lot of fun. I love having a creative outlet to sew and to relax. It's fun. I read with what time I can. I read a mixture of everything, some nonfiction, some fiction. These are 2 books I've liked recently. On the nonfiction end is a book called Evicted, which talks about eviction and sort of the low-income rental market in the United States. It's fascinating. It won a really well-deserved Pulitzer. We're going to talk about a theory later this semester called social disorganization theory, and it fits right in with this book. A fiction book I liked recently is called The Map of Salt and Stars. It is it takes place in 2 timelines. One is a modern day Syrian refugee family, and the other is in the same area of the world, but in the 1200s when it was at the height of medieval civilization. But it's also kind of a fantasy through that part, but it's these 2 narrators sort of taking the same journey, but for different reasons. I thought it was really beautifully written. I love to cook and I love to bake. I enter recipe contests. This is a recent recipe of mine that was published. It's bacon cheeseburgers with fry sauce. So if you have ever grown up in the sort of Utah, Idaho area, you're well familiar with fry sauce. And if you aren't, it is a mixture of ketchup and mayonnaise and some sort of acidic ingredient, sometimes pickle juice, sometimes vinegar. It's delicious. Don't knock it till you try it. Another thing I like in theory and in history more than in practice right now is traveling. I would really recommend a chance if you get to do study abroad or volunteer abroad during college. I went to London. This picture is actually taken in France on a trip that we took as part of the study abroad, but it was wonderful. I don't do as much travel right now because of the 3 small children, but I hope to again someday. I love sociology. I got introduced to sociology as part of my undergraduate degree. I was a social studies teaching major, and sociology is one of the classes they have you take. I took the 111 class at BYU. I enjoyed it, but I didn't really think any much further of it until about 2 years later, I was hired as a research assistant by one of the sociology professors who was also a secondary ed professor. That's another thing I'd really recommend. Any sort of student employment you can get, any research, is going to really bless your life in the future. She had us work with her on a project about school choice in Salt Lake City, and I loved it. I found that I really loved doing research and learning more about education as it fit into a whole society. So I stayed and I got my master's in sociology, and I finished my master's degree about 3 days before my oldest son was born. So I have spent most of my sociology career actually teaching online for BYU Idaho, which I started doing, I think at this point it's been 7.5 years, and I have loved working with the students here at BYU Idaho. It's been a wonderful blessing in my life and for my family to be able to teach from a distance and from home. Specifically, I really love the course material in this course. One of the things we're really blessed to do is to be able to focus on crime and delinquency from a prevention and rehabilitation standpoint. I've worked with a lot of children and a lot of youth, um, just in my own life and also in my callings. And I love being able to consider, what are they up against? How can we help them? How can we help them find things in their life before they ever go to crime? And then I've also worked with people who've made bad decisions in their life, who have already turned to crime or to delinquency, and I've seen them turn their lives around, which comes to my next part, is that I love that we get to talk about this material through a gospel perspective, that we get to think about, what does crime and delinquency mean when we know that Christ atoned for our sins? So we get to talk about this in terms of repentance and forgiveness, and I think it's the most beautiful perspective to take for this topic. And I'm so excited to learn more about each of you, to talk more about crime and delinquency with all of you, and I look forward to a great semester. Thanks.